He would go out and drink and get in fights, and he would drag this poor Art Fowler, who at the time he had to be in his 60s, and and walked around more like he was 85. So now you get the picture. It's like he's just hanging on, making money because Billy wants him there as his drinking buddy, and he's the pitching coach. And so I get called up to the big leagues in 1975, and I get in the lineup right away, and I'm out playing shortstop, and there's a young pitcher pitching for us, and he is really struggling. And he walks a guy and throws the ball to the screen, and walks a guy and throws the ball to the screen, and walks a guy. I mean, it's terrible. And Billy's going crazy, throwing stuff in the dugout and screaming and yelling, which just makes it worse for this young guy's just freaking out. And I mean, it's like he can't keep the ball anywhere near the batter's box. And so Billy sends Art Fowler out to talk to him. So I go thinking, holy cow, I've only been up a few days. I'm going to see what a big league pitching coach will say to a young guy who's really struggling. This is going to be great because I can learn something here. I trot in from shortstop, I get on the mound, and here comes Art waddling out. Now, before I tell you what he said, let me see if I can do an impression. This is Art Fowler from South Carolina when some of the guys in the clubhouse were talking about fishing and how good a fishermen they were and spots that they knew. And Art Fowler would say, "Oh man, that ain't nothing. I got a fishing hole back in my hometown. I got to stand behind a tree just to bait my effing hook." It was that kind of thing. So here comes Art. He's waddling out to the mound, and he doesn't even get all the way up. He's on the dirt of the mound, and this young guy says, Art, you got to help me. You got to help me, Art. I mean, what am I doing wrong? Art, help me. Tell me what I'm doing wrong." And Art looks at him and says, "I got no idea what you're doing wrong, son, but you better cut it out because you sure are pissing Billy off." And he turned around and walked back to the dugout.
That's pitching coaching. Oh man. It reminds me, I stood there on the pitching mound not knowing what to do. I mean, it's almost like I didn't even know how to go back to my position. I go, what just happened there? And one of the terrible developments of modern baseball is everything what they're saying is so important they have to cover their mouth with their glove. So, hey, what are you doing after? You want to go out for dinner after? Oh, yeah, but cover up your mouth. Can't everybody see in this conversation? It does remind me.
Yeah, I wonder why they're cover. So let's say there's a great lip reader, either the hitter or the third base coach that can relay. What are you going to say? Okay, now first pitch, throw a fastball down the middle. I mean, what could you be saying that you'd have to cover up your glove? I mean, cover up your mouth. I don't get it.
You're reminding me, I covered my first year on the beat was 93, reliever named George Samus, who had been, brilliant through the minor leagues, but just didn't quite have enough stuff to really survive in the big leagues. He comes up, he's kind of a middle reliever. He ends up getting a couple spot starts, I believe. And, and the pitching coach is Dick Such, another Southern gentleman with an irascible manager, right? So one time, Suchy goes out to the mound. I think it might have been at Yankee Stadium, and he goes, "George, your first pitch almost almost went over the catcher's head. Your second pitch is in the dirt. Try something in between."
That sounds like Suchy. I had Suchy as our pitching coach my first year in professional ball with the Texas Rangers.
I didn't know that.
He was in Pittsfield, Massachusetts with me.
Wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I know he was
Suchy since 1974.
And there's another time where Suchy went out and said, he goes, "George, you're following behind on every hitter," and then the famous quote, and Brandy can bleep this or do whatever you want with it. The famous quote that I will always remember from George Samus, rookie in the big leagues, not long in the big leagues, talking to a pitching coach who's won 2 World Series championships. He says, "No, Suchy."
Exactly.
So every time I see George, I say, "No, Suchy." All right, I got some music I want to talk about. I always have so much fun talking. Oh, one more addendum to this conversation, though. I'm going to offer a premise, and you're either going to love it or you're going to hate me for it. I'm prepared either way. My argument is that Bull Durham is the best baseball movie ever made because no other baseball movie, all of every baseball movie tries to capture the World Series winning game, 3-run homer. They all look for that big dramatic moment. Bull Durham is the best because they know what it's like behind the scenes, and they know that when a minor league pitching coach goes out to the mound, they might end up talking about candlesticks.
I will tell you that Bull Durham, except for the opening scene, where we know what the opening scene is, except for sex in the clubhouse, I saw everything in the minor leagues. I saw everything that was in Bull Durham, every single other thing, flood in the field. And I mean, we did all of that. And one of my favorite things about that is an old time baseball expression, calling somebody meat.
Yep,
and
I love it.
Nowhere, it's just fantastic. My dad used to say that all the time. What are you doing, meat? And it was just and you can't explain what meat. And people would ask me, so I would say that. People would say, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? Are you calling me a meathead? No. Or do you say I look or smell like meat? No. Well, what does meat mean? It means meat. Hey, meat. It just is what it is.
In baseball, meanings are inferred.
It comes from 1930, I think, and they had it in Bull Durham. It was wonderful. You're right. It's the best baseball movie ever.
And by the way,
because it was so real.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this too. I know of an instance in the big leagues where a starting pitcher was delayed because he was doing something similar to what Bruuuce was doing in the opening scene of Bull Durham. And when we're together, I'll tell you who it was, and you'll be amused.
Well, it just makes me think of the other movie, Major League, which was also advised by some big league guys, and they had some good stuff in Major League as well. But I wish I could tell the story. The main big villainous bopper on the arch enemy was Vukovich. Was
right.
And it was Pete Vukovich who pitched for a long time with the Brewers, and he was the big slugger on the team, but actually a pitcher in the big leagues, and he's kind of legendary for his stories. And I wish I could tell the story, but I would, except that it needs to be so visual. I will tell you this story sometime, and you and I can figure out if there's some way that we can relay this Pete Vukovich story. Randy Bush and I laugh about it every time we see each other. We recall watching Pete Vukovich, and it is fantastic. But anyway, Major League pretty good. Bull Durham the best.
Let's talk a little music. Let's also talk about the Twins briefly, even though they're not doing a ton right now. Do want to thank Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin, Hoaglund. He works out of Champlin, but you can use his app. You can call him. You can email him. His office responds very quickly. Easy to work with. He handles my insurance. He handles Michael Russo's insurance.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
I don't know if there's a lot to talk about with the Twins. I will say when I suggested to Derek Falvey that he go out and sign Nelson Cruz and Cody Allen, he didn't act like those are crazy ideas. He didn't laugh at me. He didn't get mad at me. He was kind of like, So I think he wants to make a couple of moves that would be significant. I also think that he thinks, and this is me inferring what he said. I can't remember his exact words, but I'm kind of reading between the lines here. I think he feels like everybody right now is waiting for the big pieces to fall, and then everybody who's left is going to try to absolutely max out their deals or their time, and the best deals once again might be sometime in July. Although maybe you don't want to sign the guy who on February 15th who's bitter about the deal he's going to have to sign. Maybe you want to get somebody in January who still feels good about signing for what they're signing for.
We did kind of went through two scenarios with that. One, when the Twins waited until June a couple of years ago to get to sign the designated hitter, the switch hitting designated hitter that went to Kansas City and Toronto and had big years. I'm sorry?
Kendrys Morales?
Yes, Kendrys Morales. And, he just wasn't ready to play in the big leagues. He had been off, and you just can't come back and start hitting. As good a hitter as he was. And he wasn't very good with the Twins. They let him go. He was signed with somebody else, and he was signed with Kansas City. He had a huge year. So waiting a long time has its real pitfalls. But also with Lance Lynn, the word is that Lance Lynn was just never the same personality-wise because he was just so mad.
Yep.
When he got to the Twins because of how the winter had gone for free agents. So I think there are some vulnerabilities there for waiting, and I'd be inclined to agree with you as we've talked about on this show. Nelson Cruz and Cody Allen be pretty good signings.
So we talk a lot of music. Usually I let Roy tell us about his influences, his favorites. This time I'm just going to say that, I got to go to Broadway and watch Springsteen on Broadway, which was, and I feared, I had this feeling that it couldn't be as good as people told me it was going to be, that it had to be a disappointment on some level. And so I just set myself up saying, hey, it's going to be a pleasant evening. Even if it's not great, that's fine, And my wife and I were blown away by it. It is now out on Netflix. I'm sure it won't be the same experience watching from a couch as it is in a very intimate theater right there, right off Broadway. But if you like storytelling, I won't even say if you like Springsteen's music, because you don't have to really like Springsteen's music to like this. If you like storytelling, if you like understanding how somebody went from being a poor kid in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where nobody, just a dirty little town by the seaside, to being, building this great American life. He talks about his battle with depression, his father's battle with depression, how he got started, why he got started, the travails. It's just a great American story, whether you like the music or not.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing live performances, and especially great music. And if there's a story that goes with it, that's even better. So good for you. I'm glad you got a chance to experience that. I know, I'm just glad you being such the Springsteen fan that you are. I'm glad that it wasn't a bad experience.
Yeah, no, it was phenomenal. It's out on Netflix now. So if you have Netflix, it's probably about a 2-hour show or something. And again, it's just vintage Americana, and the music is kind of secondary. It's him telling the story of his life and his band and everything else. So I highly recommend it. You have a musical movie or TV recommendation for us, Roy?
I've got one of each. Musically, I just rented. I'd never heard. Maybe you've heard of this band. I'd never heard of them before. Government Mule.
Oh yeah, Warren Haynes.
Mule? Yeah. Well, I mean, what a jam! That's pretty fun. I just ran into that. I've been listening to a little bit of Government Mule. A lot of live stuff where they're just jamming like crazy, and I got a kick out of that. I really did. So that's my musical musing. But I've got a recommendation for any listeners who have young kids out there at Christmas time, looking for something great to watch on TV relative to Christmas. My wife and I got recommended the Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell. And so we just, because my wife especially is such a Christmas fanatic, and we watch, even though we don't have kids at home, and we're trying to get, and the grandkids are watching Christmas things with their own parents, then we're stuck, trying to watch Christmas Story and different things by ourselves. We decided to watch this Christmas Chronicles. If your kids are, I would say, at least 4 or 5 or older, watch the Christmas Chronicles. It's a little adult, and I don't mean that in any negative way at all. Just I don't know if it would hold the attention of kids younger than maybe 5 years old, but I will tell you, Kurt Russell is fantastic. The special effects I believe in Santa again. I'm telling you, just the way he goes.